the anti-vaxxers. They are putting at risk their own kids, and they're putting at risk our kids as well. And those people are putting us all at risk. Aaron O'Toole is siding with them instead of with Canadians who did their part and stepped up. Canadians have shown it in being there for each other. And I am not going to back down no matter how many of them show up to try and shout us down. So shame on you, Aaron O'Toole. You need to condemn those people. And that means we're going to work on vaccination certifications, on vaccination passports.
And that we work with the provinces on vaccine certifications.
If you want to get on a plane or a train in the coming months, you're going to have to be fully vaccinated. Now is the time for people who are still resistant to getting vaccinated, that there will be consequences for those people in not being able to go to a gym or a restaurant, not being able to go to a movie theater, not being able to get on a train or a plane.
Our plan is to make sure that anyone on a plane or train is vaccinated, that anyone in the Federal Public Service gets vaccinated.
And we know that the way to get through this as well is to make sure that people can go into non-essential businesses and feel safe that they're not going to get catch COVID from someone next to them.
We all have an opportunity to get back a little more to normal. Except that those people who have not yet chosen to get vaccinated are putting all this at risk.
The risk posed to all of us by unvaccinated people?
Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame!
Le refus de tempérer à cet ordre vous rend passible d'une amende pouvant aller de 1 000 à 6 000 $.
Not only are they putting at risk our kids who are still too young to get vaccinated. I have a 7-year-old who started in grade 2 just earlier this week. Very excited about it, but he's vulnerable. All of us, even if we did the right things and got vaccinated, are at risk of lockdowns because of future waves of unvaccinated.
Having us risk more lockdowns because they haven't chosen to get vaccinated yet.
Please, everyone, if we can be respectful and we can leave.
Piece of shit! Transphobic piece of shit! Transphobic piece of shit! Transphobic, this is where the line. This is where.
In September, the federal government posted a call for expressions of interest for contractors to supply, provide, and manage quarantine isolation camps throughout every province and every territory in Canada. These quarantine isolation camps, however, are not limited to people with COVID, but provide a wide latitude for many people to be detained. Surely this government is aware of the intentions to build these isolation camps from coast to coast. And my question to the Premier is, how many of these camps will be built? And how many people does this government expect to detain?
My son is supposed to be coming in from the flight from Phoenix, and he is being detained because they didn't accept his test. They're saying it's not accurate, and they are wanting to take him to a quarantine facility. They won't let me talk to him. They won't let me see him. They won't come and talk to me. The board, they say he doesn't have a choice. They say that it's the law. They say that I don't have the right to talk to him, to see him. and they are taking him against my will and his will, and I'm not okay with it, and I don't know what to do about it, and I don't know where I'm supposed to find him. So this quarantine facility apparently is up and running and totally legal, as they say, and I'm freaking out.
Today, we're confirming an additional $23.7 million in federal funding to operate isolation sites in regions such as Toronto, Peel, York, and Durham. And we're finalizing the details for similar sites in Thunder Bay, Windsor, and other regions.
Quebec is planning to force adults that refuse a COVID vaccine to pay what's called a health contribution tax.
Those who refuse to receive their first dose in the coming weeks will have to pay a new health contribution.
We will be putting forward measures to put those tools permanently in place. The authorities of FinTrack, I believe, do need to be expanded to cover crowdsourcing platforms and payment platform and their payment providers.
Mais il y a aussi des gens qui sont farouchement opposés à la vaccination. Qui sont extrémistes. Qui croient pas dans la science, qui sont souvent misogynes, souvent racistes aussi. Et là, il faut faire un choix en tant que leader, en tant que pays. Est-ce qu'on tolère ces gens-là?
So we need to rethink our notion of what terrorism is these days. Is that the point?
Well, I think be more expansive in our definition. I really see two main streams, and one is an emphasis on nationalism, also tied in with a anti-statist or anti-authoritarian perception.
And why would we call it right-wing extremism?
You know, that traditional left-right ideological spectrum, liberalism, conservatism.
A new report that really is a warning about rising online activity by right-wing extremists in Canada.
In Canada, we found that right-wing extremists were more active in 2020 than they were in 2019. The accounts belonging to right-wing extremists were more prevalent and more accessible.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his government's COVID restrictions were a frequent target of those attacks.
Well, I absolutely do think that white supremacist movements are a very real, a very grave threat to Western liberal democracy. I think they are a grave and real threat here in Canada.
The next terrorist killer in Canada is known. We can build the profile. It's a guy. He's white. And he's probably said some shit. He's probably made you feel a little bit uncomfortable with some of his comments. He might have a thing for military paraphernalia or firearms. And we need to snitch on these guys.
You want my life, Jesse Brown? You come and take it. Don't send the millennials after me on your little witch hunt.
The small fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa or who are...
That's why I went to Ottawa. 9 out of 10 stages for genocide present in Canada right now. And apparently, the target of this little witch hunt, the profile of the next terrorist killer in Canada, is just about everybody I know who's ever bled for this country. Are you going to tell me that we weren't met with hatred?
That's a wounded veteran! That's a wounded warrior right there! I see that fucking head! That's Hey, you don't have to hit him like that. Please.
Are you going to tell me that those cops didn't hate us?
Man being kneed there. It's terrible.
Oh, come on through. Come on through. What is happening here? Wow. What is this lady doing? Trampling. Trampling horses. Trampling. Stop it. Stop it. What? Oh my God.
And that profile of the next terrorist killer? You're going to tell me that's by accident? I'm not so sure. Hey, what's up, troops? Jeff Evely, Ops Sgt-Maj for Veterans for Freedom, back with you now. I just wanted to jump on the live stream here and go over a few things that I see happening out there today. I see some pretty positive signs. The tide is kind of turning here. So just want to take a little time and kind of blow through it with you guys. And we'll see what's going on. Now, I'm going to give you guys fair warning. Let me know if you're noticing anything different with the audio right now, because I had a little bit of a problem with the setup here. But anyway, I think it's okay. Let me know if you notice anything different. Okay, so start this thing off. Trudeau got nailed by his own side here. So this was pretty sweet. This is Tracy Wilson. She's a well-known gun advocate in Canada here too. She says, number one, he doesn't have a mandate to do anything. He's a weakened minority leader propped up by the NDP who don't support it. Number two, it's his gun ban, so it's him creating the divide. What a spineless coward. Just own your hate of rural Canadians. And hashtag work on crime. Okay, so let's see what he's got to say here. Bam! Oh my gosh. No sound, guys? Let me try this one again. Okay, I hope this doesn't have anything to do with the audio setup issues.
Around it, and I'll be. Okay. I'm not going to engage into hypotheticals.
Well, it's not hypothetical. They've said it.
They've said that they might do it, yes. Yeah. But the reality is, Canadians are overwhelmingly worried about gun violence, want to see stronger gun control. We have a mandate to do exactly that, and that's what we've done. We banned assault-style weapons. We've frozen the market on handguns, and now we're ensuring that there is a definition going forward so assault-style weapons remain banned. Now, there's been
Okay, so the obvious absurdity here is that if you don't have a definition of assault-style weapon, then you don't know what an assault-style weapon is. So you're just grabbing whatever guns you want and making up something to justify it after the fact. And as I've said before, like assault-style weapon is 1,000% just a political term. It just means your gun, effectively. But the proper term that they will never, ever, ever, ever use is assault rifle. Assault rifle has the capability to go full auto or burst auto, where you can just kind of hold the trigger and spray bullets. That's not available to civilians in Canada. All that's really available is the semi-auto function. So that's one pull, one fire.
A lot of misinformation and disinformation around it, and I'll be entirely honest. There are some guns out there, not many, but some, that hunters are now using for hunting that are overpowered or have characteristics that make them assault-style weapons, and the definition will probably catch those. And there are some people who hunt with a gun that is considered an assault-style weapon who will have to change weapons on that, and will.
and again, this is an inversion of the rule of law right now. That's what they're doing. Okay, so like the rule of law means that the definition exists, and we've discovered that there are guns that are breaking the law in accordance with this definition. But again, he's just this is straight up theft. There are multiple issues at play here. One being the property rights issue, and I had this conversation with who was it just a couple of days ago. But anyway, the thing is that government is effectively, the state is effectively just socially licensed racketeering, and I mean that's what it is. It's a protection racket. You know, you don't have a choice. There's effectively there's a gun in your face, and you have to hand your money over to them, and they'll provide you with services. We hope, because they're the ones with the guns. And the only thing that really gives them any legitimacy is the Constitution, which they broke on February 18th at the Fall of Canada with the crackdown on the peaceful protest in Ottawa and the internment of political prisoners this is all new territory. Anyway, so this is straight up theft. He just wants to go after the guns, and I think like I've been saying, this decision has already been made. He's not the decision maker. This guy just reads lines. But anyway, I'll let him keep reading his lines.
Have a buyback for that weapon because they're not criminals, but we are changing the definition to make sure that guns designed to kill the largest number of people as quickly as possible have no place in this country.
Did you screw up the legislation though?
No, we continue to continue.
Well,
to
I think everyone you've been very criticized by everybody under the sun, the NDP, First Nations, Conservatives, other groups. So that indicates to me that it's not right the way it is now.
It indicates to me that it's a hard thing to do, to move forward on gun control in a country where the gun lobby holds a lot of sway in a lot of places. The Conservative Party is moving hard. And
this is another thing, one of these terms that he will never use, is any one of the number of sports shooting organizations in Canada, because gun lobby is not a real thing. Okay, even in the United States, it's not really the gun companies that are out there campaigning for gun rights. It's the NRA, like the National Rifle Association. It's like sports shooters. It's people, just kind of regular people, and the amount that they give in political donations is just a drop in the bucket compared to what the corporations are putting in there. So in terms of like a gun lobby, people peddling influence, buying influence behind the scenes, that doesn't really exist. Okay, what you have is some gun rights advocates out there, and they won't give you the names of them, of course, because if they do that, then you'll realize what the language trick that they're playing here is.
They have successfully weaponized a pitting of urban Canadians against rural Canadians. But that's not our focus. Our focus is on making sure that
pretty clear projection. I'm always talking about how one of the constituents of evil, one of the qualities of it is that it projects. So noted.
Guns that have no place in Canada because they're assault-style weapons are continued to be banned. But Conservatives have been very, very clear on it. They want to reverse our ban on assault-style weapons. Yeah. I think most Canadians actually are in line with wanting to make sure that assault-style weapons stay
I think
banned.
it's interesting that you think the Conservatives are pitting people against each other, because they would say the same about you, and particularly that you are, as they may be, also entrenching division between rural and urban voters because you rely on urban voters.
So that's pretty spectacular in my view. The amorphous Rosemary Barton is actually calling out Trudeau, even though he gave her that platonic date there after he got elected, and told her all about his favorite Ken Follett novel. That Little Walk in the Snow, I thought, yeah, we're doomed. But anyway, even the CBC is turning on him at this point. So this is a very positive sign. These are signs that there are serious cracks in the dam right now. Okay. Okay, we got Mike here. He says, embarrassed to be Canadian when I travel now. I do not display I'm Canadian like I used to pre-Trudeau. Little misspelling there, but that's okay. So here's Tucker Carlson.
Well, by now, pretty much everybody, even the Washington Post, admits that the COVID vaccines don't work at all as intended. the overwhelming majority of people dying from COVID at this point are vaccinated. Masks don't work either. But these basic scientific facts are still not well understood. Apparently, in Canada, a country that's become so completely unreasonable, it barely resembles a country at this point. In Canada, the government is now airing full-on propaganda videos directed at children to force them to take the vax and wear masks indoors. Here's Canada's, quote, public health officer, Theresa Tam, visiting with Mrs. Claus to check her vaccine papers. Watch.
It's been a tough season with lots of viruses making people sick.
Thankfully, Santa and I are feeling as healthy as ever. We are both up to date with our vaccinations, including COVID boosters and flu shots.
That's so good to hear.
I always tell Santa to make a list and check it twice.
Just a reminder that all of these people are just reading lines.
1, stay up to date on your vaccinations. 2, wear a mask in crowded indoor places and make sure it fits nice and snug. 3, wash your hands to the tune of jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Now ask yourself, is that less wooden and more believable than the state propaganda produced by the Kim regime in North Korea? No, actually it's not. And doctors should be speaking out against that because it's corrosive of the public trust in medicine and it's just lying. But not many are, in fact, virtually none. Some of them moving in the other direction.
All right. So, it is a sad state of affairs when we got to rely on the U.S. to kind of call out the state media like that. But at the same time, it's out there. It's in the mainstream news. Tucker Carlson has been a pretty strong ally to us, I think, throughout this whole crisis. So, I'm always grateful when he's talking about us because I know it's going to be scathing. And Tucker is good. And just a reminder, Gen Xer as well. So he's one of the leaders of the revolution. So I put this out here. Now, this is a bit of a dig. But, the thing is that this stuff is actually on Twitter now. Like this kind of thing, I don't think we would have been able to see not that long ago. So this is a video that an Afghani man took of his daughter coming home after they closed her school. Now, the tweet says, a little girl cries to her father, the Taliban closed my school today and told us not to come back, close quote. Her father consoles her and said he will teach her at home, but she says she wants to go to school. This is Afghanistan 2022. What a tragedy. Boy, I'll say what a tragedy. And, there are something like 1,000 Canadians that are still stranded there that we never get any update on. And, what about all the lives spent? I mean, and I say spent because it's an investment. Like this was supposed to be an intergenerational project. We're trying to raise a people up out of the Neolithic era with AK-47s to modern Western democracy. And it just doesn't happen overnight. And, when I have these conversations, people ask me about this stuff. I'm pretty candid about it because immediately they start jumping to kind of the mainstream talking points, the Democrat talking points, the covering for Joe Biden with, the loss of life and it's too long. 20 years is nothing compared to how long we've been in, any number of countries like South Korea, Japan, and, Italy and Germany for that matter. And those are all massive success stories. South Korea makes Samsung now. So there's that. And this is the thing. It's like all of us who went to Afghanistan, we're never going to get to see this girl make a Samsung, right? Or engineer a Samsung. We got the one Nobel Prize winning Malala Yousafzai who took a bullet to the face and still went back to school. These people really bled for this country. And the fact of the matter is there was something like one U.S. combat fatality in the last 6 years or something ridiculously low like that. It was the Afghan National Army that was doing the fighting, and we all have our beefs with them because their senior leaders are all boy touchers. But 40,000 of them had died in the same time frame. Like they had bled for this country. They were invested in it. They had roads, bridges, hospitals, schools that they had never seen there before. And it's just like, oh, well, it's not fast enough. It's not going fast enough. And there's too many lives. And did anybody ask, the people who,
actually went and put their lives on the line, whether, they thought that this was a good idea to, and I don't want to make this sunk costs argument here. That's not what I'm saying, but it's not to say that we haven't been showing enormous amounts of progress there. And of course, my tweet here, because I get a little bit passionate about this stuff, but it says this one goes out to all the boomers who never lifted a finger to help anyone and still had the gall to tell those of us who did that these people, like the South Vietnamese, were not worth it. So yeah, that is kind of how I feel about it. I mean, it's just terrible for people to think that it wasn't worth it, I guess. So here she is.
چیکار؟ با گریه میکنی؟ نکن گریه. ما در خانه میخوانیم وقتی طالب قرد. هی؟ کی گفت تو را؟ کی گفت تو را؟ مدیر گفت؟ چی گفت مدیر؟ بگید نبی؟
گفت روز شنبه منتظر باشی. اگر روز شنبه بیای، اگر نبیای.
گریه نکن وقتی که نمان در خانه میخوانیم.
نمیخوانم.
مکتب خو میری؟
نمیرم.
اگر مدرسه نمون مکتب خو میمانم.
مکتب هم طالب قید کردم. از زیان نیست قید.
از که قید نیست؟
از راهیشم. چی؟ مکتب.
نه که گریه در قصه قگپا نشد دختره. آدم که یاد بگیره در خانه خودم یاد میگیره.
نمیگیره.
So back to the positive stuff. Yeah, that one really gets me. So Governor Ron DeSantis announces that he's petitioning the state to impanel grand jury to investigate Pfizer and Moderna. So again, this is a Gen X rising kind of theme here. Ron DeSantis, like Tucker Carlson, is one of the leaders of the revolution here. The side of the revolution is Gen X, of course. We're trying to get the Gen Xers to displace the boomers at peak institutional power, because that is what brings an end to the fourth turning, which is the crisis era we currently find ourselves in. And here is Ron DeSantis, as per usual. He's leading the way, and he's well, here he is. Come on, Ron. What are you doing to me, man? He's not going to play. Hang on a second. Give this a shot.
To investigate any and all wrongdoing in Florida with respect to COVID-19 vaccine. So we anticipate that we will get the approval for that. That will be something that will be impaneled, most likely in the Tampa Bay area, and that will come with legal processes that will be able to get more information and to bring legal accountability for those who committed misconduct. The second announcement I'll let Joe Latipo go a little bit more in detail on, but by grand jury to investigate any and all.
So that is spectacular. That has to be the most promising development I think I've seen yet. I mean, this is a governor initiating a legal process to investigate everything we want investigated. And this is kind of one of the things that's really great about the U.S. Is it's really more like what the EU is trying to be. Each one of these states is effectively like it's a state. It has a governor. It's very independent, and the federal constitution itself is fairly simple. It's a pretty elegant document that everybody can kind of understand and get on board with. But in the case of the EU, you know, they took it out of the hands of elected officials and put it in the hands of the bureaucrats. So you know, it's massive. Their constitution is enormous and complex, and they're always trying to regulate the curvature of bananas in Britain. I think that's what led to Brexit, really. Okay, so we got this is flowing from this last one here. So we got the grand jury being announced. Now this tweet was December 13th at 12:48, and then this one's December 23rd. Oh, sorry. Hang on. Is December 13th at 5:39 p.m. So that's pretty fast-moving development. Sorry. Up there. So that's moving pretty fast. And well, here he is. It's the same panel, I realize. But anyway, here's the Surgeon General for the state of Florida.
The involvement of the pharmaceutical industry, it's an excellent one, because our media has clearly demonstrated that it is impossible to report accurately on something if you're also taking money from that same something. So what these researchers did was they performed autopsies on individuals who died suddenly, unexpectedly, without any known explanation, any known acute illness, within a few weeks of COVID-19 vaccination. And they published their results. And what they found was in the group of people they looked at, 4 out of 35 people who they looked at actually had myocarditis. And it was a type of myocarditis that was different from the typical types of myocarditis which you can get from viruses, many different types of viruses. And specifically, it was a type of myocarditis that they attributed to mRNA COVID-19 vaccines. It is important to know that these people died at home suddenly. So all of the studies that you see about myocarditis, and Tracy raised this point, they are not included in these studies because these people did not show up at hospitals or emergency departments with chest pain or shortness of breath or other symptoms that would lead to a diagnosis of myocarditis. These are people who are not counted in any of those estimates that the CDC likes to pretend are accurate. So we are initiating a program here in Florida where we will be studying the incidence.
Just a note on that last part there, like I love the candor that this guy is employing right here. You know, I'm not sure what his name is, but I'm just going to say, like, I love Floridians. They are like zero BS kind of people. And, you know, they got their quirks about them. You just got to kind of watch the headlines for Florida and you'll know what I mean. But I tell you, man, they have some pretty switched on leadership class down there, I guess I'll say.
In surveillance of myocarditis within a few weeks of COVID-19 vaccination for people who died. This is going to be a surveillance study working with some of our medical examiners in Florida. We're also going to be working with the University of Florida. So there will be a component that has more of a research form to it. But we will answer this question. It is a question that I'm sure keeps the CEOs of Pfizer and Moderna up late at night, hoping no one ever looks, but we're going to look here in Florida.
Great. Awesome stuff. So that's exciting. Now, this is making the rounds. And again, like I'm trying to show that this is going on Twitter, I guess. I'm basically just going off the Twitter trends right now. And these are trends, you know, right up there in the top 10 and stuff like that, that just would not have trended at all a year ago. So I think all of this is indicative that the tide is really starting to turn. And once the information really starts getting out there, and the CBC, if the CBC has had enough of Trudeau now, you know, they stop running interference for him and start showing some of this stuff, like that's the end of it. But anyway, you know, I don't want to get my hopes too high or anything like that, but this is This is promising.
And these scientists who had
Okay, so this is the WEF. Sorry, I'll read the tweet first. But this is the WEF paid influencers to manipulate your mind. And essentially, yeah, just listen to what she's saying here. Obviously, she's a little bit more euphemistic in her choice of words, but here we go.
Trusted messenger project, which was called Team Halo, where we trained scientists around the world and some doctors on TikTok, and we had TikTok working with us. And these scientists who had
so these are quote unquote trained scientists, right? So they didn't train them like on the spot for the pandemic. They were already scientists when they recruited them, and what they did was train them in the talking points that they wanted them to go out there and support.
virtually no following to start with. Got verified.
I'll back that up a little bit.
Got verified ticks. They started bringing people in their community into their labs, into their offices, and answering their questions, engaging with them. It really took off, and many of them became kind of like national media go-to advisors, and so Trusted Messenger project, which was called
Trusted
Halo,
Messenger
where
project.
we trained.
Okay, so yeah, that's in a nutshell. She's saying that they recruited scientifically credentialed propagandists to go out there and spin the narrative, they're so utterly lacking in self-awareness that they don't even realize how egregious a thing they're really saying out loud. So this is another one of these things where I find room for optimism, because the fact of the matter is the people that are trying to pull off this conspiracy are way out there. They're wide out in the open. So they're not very good at what they're doing. I find that they're kind of hilariously inept, but also very dangerous on account of their extreme wealth. Not to mention, I'll say again, I think the center of gravity here for all of this is China. I don't think that it is Russia, although Russia has always been adversarial, and they do come at us pretty hard in cyberspace, and they engage in a lot of cyber terror, not even terrorism, but like the blackmail schemes and stuff like that. Anyway, they're kind of their own beast, but no, I don't think that they're the center of gravity for this. I think that's probably China. Okay, so we got the Moderna CEO can't explain why his company owns a U.S. patent of SARS-CoV-2 gene sequence filed in 2016. So I mentioned this several times on the podcast. I think I remember seeing the paper like when it first came out, and the number that it listed there was something like a 1 in 10 billion chances of this virus actually arising naturally. The fact of the matter is it's got a Moderna patented sequence in there. Yeah, I mean, and we're talking about like DNA. So for the pattern of DNA to match with a Moderna sequence at any point for basically any length of double helix in the SARS-CoV-2 virus, the chances of that being a coincidence are non-existent. They're effectively non-existent. They probably put that 1 in 10 billion in there to account for like a miracle. So, okay, here we go.
On virus possible, human makes mistakes. So is it possible that the Wuhan lab in China was working on viruses enhancement or gene modification? And then there was an accident where somebody was infected in the lab and then infected their families and friends. It is possible. On the claim you just mentioned, the scientists are analyzing to know if it's real or not.
Yeah, I mean, I was struck by the line, it matched a genetic sequence patented by Moderna for cancer research purposes, Stefan.
Yeah, and that's the type of things that the team is looking at very carefully to know is it real or not. Okay. So it takes a bit of time to analyze all the genetics. Possible,
No explanation. Now, when I was tracking this during the early pandemic, and I'm just going from memory now, but the thing about this was it looked like maybe what they were trying to do was come up with a coronavirus to infect the bat population, to inoculate them against other coronaviruses, because that is a real concern over there in the Orient in particular, because it's overpopulated. Well, I mean, it depends on what you consider to be overpopulated, I guess, but it's the population is very dense. So yeah, they're constantly having havoc wreaked within the population by coronaviruses, and so they might have been making an attempt to kind of cut it off at the source, something like that. But on the other hand, the timing of the release was a little bit too much of a coincidence with respect to the Hong Kong protests, right? Like the Hong Kong protests were the biggest in history. They had to be. I mean, I think it was like 30 million people at one point. And they were waving American flags, and they were cheering for democracy. And then boom, here comes the coronavirus, and everything's locked down for the first time in history. And we see everybody affiliated with the WHO essentially following China's lead from there. So anyway, even if it was, maybe if it could be a bioweapon, I tend to think it would have been a harsher virus if it were. I tend to lean that way. I think this was. It could still be an accidental release. The only reason that I'm suspicious about it is because of the timing is just too good for the CCP in light of the Hong Kong protests. And of course, as soon as the lockdown started, and not long into the lockdowns, there was the Black Lives Matter riots with the Summer of Love. I think there was 70 dead and 2 billion in damage during the fiery but mostly peaceful protests. I mean, all of this is basically just a psyop to sow chaos, as far as I can see. And as America burns with discord, you got the Chinese Navy outpacing them and becoming the largest Navy now, I believe. And they've been doing nothing but exercising the invasion of Taiwan, which is a major strategic asset to us, because 80% of our computer chip manufacturing goes on over there. And the other thing about it too is once China can kind of make its way onto the Pacific Islands, like Japan is essentially defenseless, and they're old rivals and so on and so forth. And China, I mean, she's been on a war footing for a number of years now. So we'll have to keep an eye on those areas there for developments, I'll tell you, because they are pushing hard. They're marching hard. Okay. So here's Elon, and Lori says exactly what I was thinking. That the virus was released because people were uprising against the CCP. It is, like I said, it is a very fortunate coincidence for the CCP. It could be a coincidence, but it's worthy of more investigation, I'd say. That's one of those things I'm really keeping my eye on. And I saw a good comment here from Ken earlier when we were looking at the Afghani girl. I put it up there, and he said they should release the footage captured by combat photographers. I think that would be a very valuable educational experience as well. I know I was keeping a greatest hits reel when I was working with the unmanned aerial vehicles there. I'm an Air Force guy, like a techie. And I was with the unmanned aerial vehicles. So I had, a front row seat, bird's eye view every night. I never really, I didn't go outside the wire. I never had any combat experience like some folks out there, like Jeremy McKenzie. But I got to see more of those Talibastards die, I bet, than he did. So there was an upside to that. And the thing about the footage, people don't understand, what's going on out there, like what these guys are really like. They're just animals. You don't understand that, the rest of the world is trying to conquer us here in the West. We're raising Abel and they're still raising Cain. And that's just the way that it's been for millennia. And now we have greater capacity to, looks like, not destroy humanity, but enslave it right now. But there's more than enough nukes to do the job. So we'll just keep poking that Russian bear, guys. Let's send all the howitzer 777s over to their western border and leave us undefended on our northern border with them. Just go ahead. But the footage is, I heard, and I didn't see this for myself, I don't think, at any point, but I heard guys talking about things like the Chechen brigades and stuff like that. Like there were people coming from other countries for the purpose of engaging in jihad, to kill Westerners. And in one case, as I've been told, like they were Chechens, and they would come, because this was the thing. I remember in the 90s, the jihadis in Chechnya, they took over a couple of buildings, like high rises, and the Russian army, the Red Army, just rolled right in there with the tanks and routed them. And it was a really big thing on the news. But that's an issue that they're dealing with over there, is global jihad, essentially. And yeah, they will do, like, it's like a pilgrimage, a duty that they have, the true believers. And they would kind of show up in Afghanistan with their gear, basically professional soldiers from East Europe. And the boys said that they knew they were in for a fight when they saw those guys. So, I can't speak to that as an eyewitness, but I do know, I know somebody who was, definitely. So I would be interested to see more of that. I'm all about the harsh truth, the raw footage. I've watched beheading videos just for the purpose of I want to know what it is I'm talking about, what's really happening. And it is disturbing, so I don't recommend it. It's not for the faint of heart, at least. But I think that's part of what soldiers do to prepare mentally, is they confront the harshness of the reality probably before they ever even land on the ground. I know I did a lot of reading around that time too. But yeah, this would be great. I would love to see more of the footage from the war. I think it's a really important, this is the clearest light of history we've ever had to really solve this riddle of why it is that we seem so destined to destroy ourselves. And, I think I've solved it, but getting the word out is a bit of a challenge. And like I keep saying, we've never been so capable of completely enslaving ourselves. But anyway, with the positive theme, I'll go back to, pardon me, I'm a veteran, I have a dark streak. Elon Musk, of course, is just kicking ass here and taking names. So the Twitter files, I'm not really doing much on the Twitter files because it's just like everybody's covering the Twitter files. It's everything that everybody said it is. And it's almost like it's boring to me. It's because I watched all this stuff happen real time. And anyway, it was we all really knew what was going on there. And got gaslit, for years. Every time somebody raised that question. So anyway, here's Elon letting us all know that we were all right all this time.
I mean, to be totally frank, almost every conspiracy theory that people had about Twitter turned out to be true. So, is there a conspiracy theory about Twitter that didn't turn out to be true? So far, they've all turned out to be true. And if not, more true than people thought. I mean, to be totally frank.
So that's it in a nutshell. I didn't really want to bother going into a lot of the Twitter file stuff, but yeah, it's a total scandal. They totally, that 2020 election was not a free and fair election. Of course, the biggest scandal there was that they buried the Hunter Biden laptop story that demonstrated that this just obviously he must have had one hell of a life with Joe Biden as a father, because he's a complete train wreck. And his father's still exploiting him as a bag boy in Eastern Europe for Chinese oligarchs that are buying influence with Joe Biden. And man, I don't know if you guys remember, there was I think Tucker covered this, but there was in the early pandemic, or after Joe Biden got elected. That's what it was. It was after January 6th. They had or after that election, but they had, there was this Chinese professor that was saying, we have people, very high up in the American government now. And of course, he didn't say Joe Biden, but we all knew what he meant. It was just immediately after the election. And well, I mean, that's the state of affairs, I think, is he's a Manchurian candidate, and it's right in your face. Like, it's a hell of a thing to have to live through and to try to solve, really. And justice is not swift. That's just not possible. Okay, so here's David Zweig and in the thread itself. So you can go check this out. But it says the number one thread here is the Twitter files, how Twitter rigged the COVID debate by censoring info that was true but inconvenient to U.S. government policy, by discrediting doctors and other experts who disagreed, by suppressing ordinary users, including some sharing the CDC's own data. And, you can kind of go through this, and there's it's everything you think it is. Like, the Biden administration is reaching right into Twitter to pressure them to censor dissidents. I think this is one right here. So Berenson sued and then settled with Twitter. In the legal process, Twitter was compelled to release certain internal communications which showed direct White House pressure on the company to take action on Berenson. So that's the kind of thing that you're going to see if you want to go check it out. And there's all kinds of receipts to come with it and stuff like this. So this is everything that Elon Musk is basically just dumping. He's releasing everything that's been hidden from us about what's going on Twitter for the last several years. So that adds him to a list of, I guess, kind of whistleblower Gen Xers like Julian Assange. And is Snowden? I think Snowden might be. He might be millennial, though. He's got a bit of a golden boy look to him. I better look that up. Okay, and just to round this out, we got Ben Shapiro here. He was trending today, and he says, we should all be enraged that we were told lies about the COVID vaccine. Today, I spoke with at RW Malone MD, so that's Robert Malone. He's basically the inventor of mRNA technology. He's got more patents than anybody out there, so and he says it's a gene therapy. But anyway, he says, I spoke with Robert Malone about both of our decisions to take the vax, our government's gaslighting and propaganda campaign, and what happened when Malone tried to alert the FDA and Pelosi to data flaws. And this is a thread, but we got about a 3.5-minute video here. So take it away, Ben.
Dr. Malone, one question that I think is worth asking. Your book is titled Lies My Government Told Me. And, I've been raging mad about the fact that, for example, back in December of 2020, we were told by the government, we continue to be told even today, that the vaccines cut down on transmission. And those of us who were being told based on, quote unquote, best available data, we were told by spokespersons for the vaccine companies, we were told by members of the government up to and including the president, both Donald Trump and Joe Biden afterward, that the vaccines cut on transmission. And for that reason, I recommended that people take the vaccine at the time. I took the vaccine myself. My wife took the vaccine. She's a doctor, and she took the vaccine as well, largely based not on my own personal risk, but on the idea that this would cut down on the ability for me to transmit to my parents who are in their 60s.
You endorsed what unfortunately was a carefully clinically tested propaganda messaging strategy. And I think you shouldn't beat yourself up in any way. I also took the product. I took Moderna. I took it for some different reasons. I had long COVID, and there was a lot of information, really now we know disinformation, circulating about the potential for the vaccines to be therapeutic for long COVID. I also had to travel internationally, and so that was the other main reason why I took it. I knew that I wouldn't be able to engage internationally if I didn't take this product. And so I accepted it. I had also been told directly by the person at the FDA who has line responsibility for approving these products, Peter Marks. And I had a teleconference with him about my concerns after I reviewed the Pfizer data package that Byron Bridle had obtained from Japan. And my position back then, people criticized me also, well, why didn't you come out earlier? I believed at the time that the pharmaceutical company had pulled the wool over the FDA's eyes, that the FDA had been confronted by a new technology and data surrounding that new technology, and that upon reading the Pfizer data package from Japan, I believed that Pfizer had hoodwinked the FDA with how they had presented that information. And that's why I set up that teleconference with Peter Marks. I also set up a teleconference with Nancy Pelosi in her office and begged them to release age-stratified data on the risks of the virus. Nothing happened. Like with Peter Marks, I had this teleconference with a press officer from the FDA, with him, a Zoom, in which he asked me to hold back with my comments and said that he had received additional data from Pfizer. He had no concerns, and I should feel reassured by this. So he specifically asked me to back off, said he had new data, said he would be disclosing it, said he'd reviewed it, said he had no concerns based on that. And yet that was also a lie. We now know that, of course, the courts had to force the FDA and Pfizer to disclose those data. And when they did, it was anything but reassuring.
And there you have it. So, like I said, this is Dr. Robert Malone says, author, Lies My Government Told Me, and the better future coming. So sounds like he sees the light at the end of the tunnel as well. And I saw a couple of comments in there, like Lori was just saying, let me see. I agree that it is more than about CCP interest, but the timing could have played a role too. Yeah, I think the timing was a little too convenient, perhaps. So we should definitely look into that. But at the same time, I'm always emphasizing a philosophical razor known as Hanlon's razor, which is basically never attribute malice where ineptitude will suffice as an explanation. So yeah, when you see this kind of behavior, just really kind of hang on to that possibility that it really is widespread ineptitude. And I think we see plenty of evidence for that. There's a lot of greed behind this, no shortage of conflicts of interest, right up to the prime minister with his investments in the what do you call it? What's the delivery system? It's the lipids, the nanolipid particles that they use for delivering the mRNA. But anyway, the thing is that the tide is definitely turning on this thing. We're starting to see like just a deluge of information coming out on the newly liberated Twitter files. So we're seeing all kinds of stuff that, like I said, we just wouldn't have seen even a few months ago, I don't think. So I'm really optimistic that awareness is really spreading. People are going to be awakening more and more and more with the internet perhaps starting to open up here. This is pressure, this is a really good move that I think that Elon made. I'm tracking his movements on this a little bit. Like he said, he did that poll and said, I'll abide by the poll. And so he was voted out as the CEO of Twitter. He hasn't given a timeline on it. And he's already said that he's going to stay in charge of, I think, server and software or something like that. So he's looking for a replacement CEO. And I saw Edward Snowden reply to him. He said that he'll take payment in Bitcoin. So that's well played, I think, Edward Snowden. And my response to that was that he should team up with Donald Trump Jr. as CEO of Twitter. But anyway, people are starting to rally, and the dam is starting to break. So I think we just got to keep up the pressure and make sure that we're in this for the long haul. And it is a war. It's one battle at a time. So the important thing is that, we keep a cool head about us. And until next time, troops, stay frosty and stay safe.